All right.
Good morning. The time is 10:35. I want to welcome everybody to our Audit Committee meeting this morning on Thursday, February the 1st, 2024. And I'd like to call this meeting to order with our attendance and roll call.
Yeah, and Commissioner Fisher, Chair, it looks like all board members are in attendance, so we're ready to go.
Thank you. Hopefully, everybody have had the opportunity to review and approval of the minutes from January 11, 2024. I'm not gonna belabor this long, but if that's the case, I get a motion to approve our January 11, 2024 minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Carl Blunt, second by Commissioner Myers. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Commissioner Dexter, Fisher. I just do want to add that reading over the minutes, actually, I want to thank whoever does them because they were very thorough. And I think those provide a really like a nice historic record of what we've been doing as well. So to whoever did that, appreciation.
I won't take credit for that. That is both Judy and Katie that switch off with that stuff.
Thank you all very much. They were very thorough, very thorough. So we'll go ahead and move along in the agenda. Item D, FY 24 audit work plan activity.
All right, thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to present at least a draft for you all with regard to the tax assessor's office. To the credit of both Judy and Katie, who are here with us today, I'm happy to say that this was done in compliance with our estimated timeline. Certainly wasn't easy, was a learning experience for all of us, but I think it was important to go ahead and try and get this first one out on time and see sort of where we were with it, and we'll make adjustments as we need to in the future. But you do have that draft in front of you, and we're not looking for a vote today. Certainly, we'll take any questions, any comments you might have about the report itself. But at this point in time, we're awaiting the departmental response to the audit findings and recommendations. We've had that discussion with them. Both the manager's office and the tax assessor's office has been given a copy of the draft, and as well as a form in which they can fill out to respond to the comments, to the recommendations. And they have 30 days in which to do so. So we're expecting those responses prior to your March meeting, and we will incorporate those responses into the report itself. And so the next version that you will see in March will have those responses. At that March meeting, barring any unforeseen issues, we'll probably look for a vote of the audit committee to move this forward onto the merit commission at that time. And if that's the case, we'll likely make the March-April cycle of the merit commission activity. So that said, I know it was a significant read, and I perhaps didn't get a chance to read all of it, and we do have some time, and I'll ask that if you do have any questions or concerns over the next couple weeks, feel free to reach out to me via email or phone. You can certainly email the group as a whole. Don't wait until the March meeting, because again, the March meeting, we're kind of going to be looking for a vote. So any questions or changes you may have, we'd like to have that in advance. But we're happy to take any questions you have right now regarding the draft. But what ultimately, in summary, we found that the tax assessor's office is in good shape. Certainly, like we anticipate for many departments, not everything's perfect. There are certainly is room for improvement, but I would say it's slim room for improvement with the tax assessor's office. The way our report was structured, we recommended there were 3 primary findings that we felt needed to be voiced in the report as formal findings with a recommendation. There were also some minor things that we touched upon in the conclusion section of the report, but nothing that we felt warranted a formal response or any kind of official follow-up. But this has all been communicated with the tax assessor's office. They were great to work with. We spent a lot of time over there with them in various capacities. We talked with all of their staff, and I believe we had 100% response rate to the staff questionnaires. So very good to work with and a good experience with them. And we certainly learned a lot on our side as well. But that is where we are with the tax assessor's office audit. So happy to talk about any questions.
Any questions from the committee?
I have a generic question here that isn't as specific as others might have, because I haven't really read it, but who, in terms of reading, when I read this over, who were you thinking of as your intended audience for this? Obviously, the department, the tax assessor's office, you know, that makes sense there. But I'm just curious in terms of understanding. I mean, we have the commissioners. I mean, what were you all thinking in terms of the public, other people? I mean, in terms of, as I'm reading this and thinking about audience and what could be understood. Any comments on that?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question, Commissioner. You know, our intended audience going forward with any of these audits is twofold. I think it has a purpose, obviously, internal to the government, whether that's the department itself, as well as the commission and the manager's office. But the style, the format, the layout, ultimately, I think is intended for anyone in the community. Our goal is to put this on our website once completed for anyone to view it. And some of the reason behind specifically the tax assessor's office being chosen for an audit this year is to help educate those who may not be aware of what the tax assessor does on a daily basis. Right now, I think there's an obvious understanding that the tax assessor helps set value. And sometimes there's a misconception that the tax assessor sets the millage rate. And we wanted to clarify that, especially with the upcoming budget season. But I can tell you that in my experience, as well as Judy and Katie being with the government, we learned a lot ourselves about what they do that I didn't know of. And I think it's important for everyone to have that understanding and be written in a way that is intended for that audience without getting too much into some of the details that not everyone may understand or comprehend or be familiar with. And
So an interested citizen,
Yes.
you know, I don't mean it to drop it on the street and have anyone be able to pick this up and understand it, but an interested resident.
Yes.
That's the word I should be using.
And I think it's add to our transparency of our community and what we're doing. So I think it's critical. Again, so keep in mind, this is a draft, so, you know, but once we vote on it, we put it on the website, and like you said, Carol, those who are interested, they can review it, but I think it needs to be totally transparent for all the operation analysis department is doing, and what we're doing as a committee, and the public can see how a lot of our departments are functioning. And I like the fact that it's educational too. I think that will help moving forward, help us as a commissioner, and help our community going forward with each one of our departments representing what they do.
I'd also add on, just because you got, you know, I agree with you there on that because it's the first time going through, I really like the way it's laid out. This is just visual. It looks easy to make sense of and read, the spacing and everything else, and the use of graphics and everything in here. So I appreciate the attention that went into that, because I'm sure this will then be used as a template going forward.
Yes. And on that note, I will confirm that to both Katie and Judy's credit, they spent a lot of time on this layout, great ideas, and certainly, you know, there will be tweaks going forward, but yes, we intend to use this for the next couple periodic audits. We'll adjust it as necessary each time as we learn in this process and have different things that we want to include. But I think this was a great first start, and I'm appreciative of the significant work that they put into this in a short period of time.
And again, too, for us, I'm thinking about this now as another audience. We have Manager Williams here. Like it gives, I think all the other departments who are getting this, it'll give them an idea of where they're going.
Yes.
So
That's a
that,
good model.
yeah.
I was gonna say that too. I think that
it's not so content word heavy that you stray away from it. I think a lot of times when you receive documents like this, it can almost be intimidating or just visually exhausting, you know, so
Right.
you look at it and you're like, I don't wanna read it, but having the infographics and that kind of thing embedded in it helps to ease that, so.
I think it was well done. Thank you.
Just wanted to ask how
Yeah.
you do your numbering system, so I was curious to see how that's gonna work.
Sure. So we did, I mean, we didn't just pull that out of the air, believe it or not. We did have a conversation on that. And so, you know, fiscal year or calendar year, I'm sorry, 24,
Mhm.
P for periodic audit versus C for comprehensive. And then 08 is actually the internal code that is applied to all of our departments from a financial standpoint. So 08 happens to be the tax assessor financial code.
Where is that,
Down at the
where-
bottom.
At the bottom, at the bottom,
Oh, it's not repeated? Oh, okay, got it there.
the report number.
Yeah.
Periodic.
I think this will also be useful for a number of different things. I mean, just the comparative analysis alone is illustrative of a lot of interesting points. I mean, you look, you know, we're putting ourselves, I'm looking at page 6, putting ourselves up against Augusta, Richmond County, Chatham County, Macon Big, and, you know, first of all, the thing that leapt out to me is the fact that we by far and away have the most efficient staff. We've got 14 people here versus 27 Muskogee, 28 Macon Bibb, et cetera. You know, it also is interesting to me that given the size of the county, first of all, and then on top of that, given how much of the county I assume is not being valued because it's state, it's the state. The total valuation is still $16 million, which is larger by 3 million. Or
And make it bib.
Then make
Make
it
it
big.
big, yeah.
So that one closes in size.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, which, again, you know, points to a number of different things, but no, I think this is wonderful.
And
Great
most
job.
of the unified government.
Yeah, and that was part of the point of this, the periodic audits going forward more than likely continue to compare against some of these jurisdictions, given the fact that they are unified governments. As we get into more of the comprehensive analysis, we may stray a little bit and provide additional comparative analysis, whether that's of similar college communities, communities that are within a certain distance of ours, heading towards the metro area, for example. So we'll adjust that as needed, but I think for the most part, when you start to see more of these periodic audits, you'll certainly see a comparison against unified governments in Georgia. So,
I mean, with my time, serving on the Board of Equalization, my experience has been this particular department does a very good job. I mean, they're all very, very good at what they do. I mean, granted, especially in the last 3 years, because of the increase in real estate values, people are mad. I mean, people are mad in general at their property tax.
Yes.
And they direct that anger at them a lot of times, but, you know, it's something that I see, that I have seen, as a matter of fact, with insurance, for instance, people calling and like, why is my homeowner's insurance what it is? Why is this home value what it is? I can't sell it for that. It's not necessarily what you could sell it for, it's what it would cost to build it back, and that's gone up, and it's in the same vein here. Not to belabor this, but, you know, it's not necessarily what you paid for it or what it was 3 years ago, it's what it's worth now. You know, that's the thing you have to focus on, so.
I think too, just to point out, to build upon what Mr. Blunt is stating, with the staff that they have, they certainly do an efficient job with the number of properties, the valuation of properties, and we try to put some of those high-level statistics in the report when you consider the fact that there's 42,000 different properties, parcels of property within Athens-Clarke County that all have to be analyzed in some capacity over time. And then you throw on top of that 5,000 pieces of personal property, and valuations can obviously change annually. And so, I think we found certainly that they are efficient in what they do, but I think this report also highlights that that's not all they do. There are typical administrative things that happen within a tax assessor's office, just like any other department. There are also a number of appeals that over the last 3 years have gone up, and we've indicated that trend in our report, and those are all things that we were unaware of prior to the audit that take a significant number of time when you talk about the applications that come in, processing applications for appeal, having to have those discussions with property owners, and then possibly even go to court for some of those things, or the Board of Equalization. And those are all things that these appraisers are working with on a daily basis, so.
And now that I'm trying to make life more difficult for the commissioners, but as has been mentioned, don't argue about your taxes, your tax rate with them. Okay, don't focus on that. What you're focusing on is the valuation. The taxes are addressed in different formats.
Right. Yes.
Any other questions? Gavin?
So tell me again, you want comments by,
Yeah, if there's any questions, or comments, certainly feel free to send them to me over the next few weeks. I'd like them in advance, at least 2 weeks in advance of our next meeting, so that we have time to make those changes if necessary, and then we'll incorporate, the department's responses so that you'll have a hopeful final report in front of you by the March meeting to potentially take a vote on. I would ask, over the next few weeks, if you have questions, if you have comments about, either the content or, the layout, we're certainly happy to address those, as we can. I think it's important to, from a layout standpoint, we'll learn from this. If there's something we want to move around in order of the layout, we can also do that on the next report without starting over or delaying this one. The other thing I would just add is that, from a content standpoint, it would be difficult for us to try and incorporate anything that we didn't observe as the ones doing it. So although we're happy to have that conversation and answer those questions, I don't know if you'd necessarily see us changing statistics, obviously, based on what you all might have, because that's not something that we observed and can stand by.
Okay.
So, just keep that in mind, though, obviously, going forward. So.
And Gavin, when do you think you get the response back from the department?
Those are due about a week prior to our meeting. So when I send out the agenda reminder a week before our meetings, I should have that final report with their responses in it for your review. Yes.
so then this would go to, if we're voting on it in March, then we're expecting that this will go to the whole commission in April?
Well, if I can play my cards right, if y'all vote on it at your March meeting, which is that first Thursday,
Okay.
I'll try and get it, even if it has to be title only for the agenda setting. Yeah, and then
Okay, so our meeting is before. I haven't thought to March and looked at the
Sure,
numbers on the
sure.
calendar. Okay.
Well, just so everybody knows, I'm sorry, Chair.
I'm just gonna say, so it probably will be an April vote if we get it on the agenda.
that's the intent,
Yeah.
anyway, but yes, sir.
Well, I was gonna say, based on comments from the commission over time recently and then the last retreat, I know we're working with Gene to back up all the submissions for agenda items a full week across the board. So just FYI there.
Yeah.
Commission had shared their concerns about last minute things showing up.
So
Not that.
no, but with that in mind, if the calendar doesn't look like it's gonna align right, we would still look for y'all to vote in March. And if we just have to go through the process of moving it one cycle for the mayor and commission level, I don't think there's any harm with that. We'll still be able to proceed with our other assignments. We'll already have your vote essentially in our pocket so that whatever cycle we end up on, we're good to
Right.
go.
I mean, we're meeting on and now I am looking at the calendar, and we are meeting, the audit committee meets after the commission meeting
right.
in March.
Well, the voting meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
But we would, if anything, I would
Oh,
be
you're
aiming
trying
for
to
the
get it to the
agenda
beginning.
setting.
Okay, the
That
agenda,
was the
okay, so
April.
the vote in April, got it.
Right, I'm
Got it.
trying to get on the
Yeah, yeah.
agenda, but if it
Yeah.
doesn't work, to Commissioner, for Manager Williams' point, if it doesn't work, we may have to move it back
Mhm.
to May maybe.
So just in this particular instance,
Yeah.
Typically, Commissioner Myers, the Wednesday before the voting meeting is when the next set's due.
Right.
And then I think we're trying to go even a week before that. So 2 weeks before the voting meeting is when the next batch of agenda items are generally
Right.
due. It doesn't mean you can't do it title only, or we'll make it work,
Yeah.
but that's our new practice and we're gonna be
Yeah.
trying to implement that.
Yeah, 'cause we're trying to get things earlier for us.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll be happy to follow whatever protocol it will be in place at that time, so. But I do think we'll be able to, as a committee, we'll be able to stay on track regardless of what cycle it goes on with the mayor and commission, so. So that said, that's the tax assessor status right now. Would you all like me to move on to the other,
Yes.
assignments?
Any other questions before we move forward? Thank you, Gavin.
Yeah, thank you. So with regard to the other work plan items, we are already underway with the performance audit of the Human Resources Department, specifically recruiting, hiring, and orientation. Our planning phase is near complete, so over the past month and a half roughly, we've already had initial meetings with the HR department, staff, leadership. We've sent out staff questionnaires to all of their staff, and we've also asked for the typical list of material and resources. So I think we're nearing completion of getting all of that in, and starting next week, we'll actually begin our fieldwork phase with their department, where we go to their department and spend time with them. It's likely to be twice a week for the entire month that we'll be over there, or at least plan to. And then after that, we'll start to work on our report, obviously, for that. With regard to economic development, now that tax assessor has, for the most part, been completed, and we're just sort of going through the committee portion of it, we have met with them as well. We've gotten material from them. We've sent out staff questionnaires, and we've already begun the field work phase with the economic development department. So that one is going to be simultaneous with the human resources audit. That one will be unique a little bit. We are going to follow the same format as the audit you just saw from tax assessor, but I will say that given the nature of economic development at this point in time, they are a remote-based department of the government right now. And so the hours dedicated to observations in the field or observations in the office, like with the tax assessor, is going to be different because there is no office essentially. But we have found other ways to work with them, where we are accompanying them to certain committee meetings that they hold, other events or meetings they've invited us to, and we are still holding in-person interviews with their staff. So just a little bit different anticipation with that one. And then I would say that by the end of the month of February, we'll have at least had our entrance exam with HCD. We won't fully kick that one off until we've been able to near completion with the economic development department. I think it'll be a little hard to balance 3 audits at the same time, so 2's enough for now at the same time. But we at least want to have that entrance meeting with them, give them the list of material to start working on in the meantime, so that once economic development clears, we're ready to go with HCD. So that is the status. Now, I won't ask for any official change at the moment. I do want to just put it on your radar that we are anticipating or actually undergoing a little bit of change in the Human Resources Department leadership. And we may need to adjust the timeline a little bit for that. I want to try to still keep our annual work plan that's based on a fiscal year still within the fiscal year. And I think there's about a month cushion right now in the timeline to where we were supposed to be wrapping up HR by the beginning of June. That may first come to you at the beginning of July if we need to go that route. But you know, as anticipated with any kind of change in leadership, you know, they've got a lot on their plate, and we want to be respectful of that. To a degree, we want to maintain our timeline, but you know, that said, I think we need to at least anticipate that there may be a month delay in that initial timeline. So, any questions about that at all?
Man, we named the interim. Have we named the interim yet?
I'm gonna do that today. But I wanted to say, Chair, and sir, I appreciate that on
Yeah.
behalf of staff.
Yeah.
This has kind of thrown us a bit of a loop, and they're already operating a few staff down, so a little bit of grace on the time is appreciated, and I can tell you that from them too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, and that would ultimately conclude my brief, at least on the work plan, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the staff? Any comments?
You said, it sounds like a lot that's going on.
It is, and I won't sugarcoat it, you know, when we set this out, we knew it was ambitious, the work plan, and that
Yeah.
was by design. But I'm a full believer that you don't know,
Uh-huh.
you know, the capability of staff until you test the, you know, what they're made out of and what they can do. And to Judy and Katie's credit, they have been fantastic putting in extra hours, more than what they should be, to meet these deadlines. But I think that helps us as we look toward our annual work plan for FY25. We will certainly make adjustments, but that said, we're not gonna back away from some of the commitments that we've already made to you all with this work plan. So we're gonna try to stay on that as much as possible.
Are you all still, in terms of staffing, and I'm thinking about the budgeting, and I'm not sure, like, you're just, the only other thing on this agenda is back ethics training, right?
Well, and I'll brief you on my standard brief of, as far as internal audit, like training and
Oh, okay,
other stuff.
okay, I didn't
Yeah.
wanna, and sometimes you put more detail.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. Anyway, I just wanted to, you know, I'm just sort of keeping an eye on.
Oh, yeah,
I know you put in a request for another position
yes.
there, but you know, knowing that the public safety
Right.
oversight
Yeah.
hasn't even gotten any complaints in.
Actually, they have.
They did,
They got one. We got one already.
okay.
Do you want me to move into my update? Because I can talk a little bit more about that if you,
Sorry.
it's up to y'all. No, you're good. Well, on that note, yes, I do think all of y'all have started or finished the BAC training, so I appreciate that. And thank you, Carl, for working through some of those technical
me.
difficult. I didn't want to mention you. No.
I wouldn't last. All right, thank you, Dexter.
I thought I was laughing. It's like that night, you know, like you're writing that paper that's due at 11:59. I was like, oh my God.
But I appreciate y'all's commitment to that, and, you know, we'll get through it. Everyone will eventually get through it, and, on that note, though, with regard to our shared responsibility with Peace Corps, public safety oversight, there has been a uptick in our time dedicated for that this past month. Now that January's closed, we looked at the numbers the other day, actually, of staff hours, and if you'll recall from our last meeting, we were roughly, you know, 7 to 8 hours a week, but that was purely administrative. We did receive
Excuse me, how many hours?
about 8 hours.
Oh, okay.
a
I thought you
week.
said 80 for a second.
Oh, no.
I said, hold on.
No, but you know, that
It's
was,
one person, 7 or 8 hours.
well, that was even cumulative amongst the 3 staff, but because that was purely administrative tasks.
I mean,
like
right,
maintenance
that's what I
was-
mean,
Yeah,
but it's not 7 or 8 hours each,
no,
not
no.
right?
This past month, though, in January, with the acceptance of even just one complaint, and again, we're learning the amount of time that has to go in this, because this hasn't been done here before, along with administrative tasks, that has more than doubled to about 16 hours a week. So a total of almost 65 hours dedicated this past month to Peace Corps, solely Peace Corps initiatives. So we are going to try and balance that more going forward, but hopefully we'll have more clarity for you as we continue to go through that process. But we did see a significant increase in our staff dedication over this past month for that. So
And Given, how are you, like spreading that out? Is this
sure.
among the 3 of you?
Yeah, I mean, administrative tasks are split amongst all 3 of us, whether that's minutes, agendas, website maintenance, things like that. Although our goal is to continue to cross-train on all things Peace Corps, the majority of handling complaints and processing those and reaching out to the public safety departments for meetings and discussions, those are being handled by me. So.
And that's why I think it's critical, you know, I know you got your request in that you, some commission that again, it may be something, Dan, that, again, we talked about this early on. Although we may get this one, might need a second one, we just gotta have to, play it by ear to see what it looks like moving forward, but we need to be mindful that we don't wanna, first of all, burn the staff out, and especially if piece up, gonna pick up, and I feel like it might, and it might not, but we just don't know with the first one being in there. So we just gonna have, I think as a committee and as a commission, we need to be very mindful of what they're doing over there. So I just want to keep that on our mind. moving
Yeah.
forward.
Constantly.
Would it be, possible to consider, since we made the work plans for this year with
Mhm.
the periodic audit and the one major audit,
Mhm.
considering we started in November?
Yes, partial year.
Yeah, already partial year, to consider to push one of your periodic audits for the next, I know you don't want to do that
Mhm.
because we made a commitment and we
Sure.
did it. But I think if this is the case, we might consider, just because we didn't know how the workflow was gonna go, we didn't know how much time it was
Sure.
gonna. And the quality of these is more important
Yes,
than knocking them out, in my opinion,
Yeah.
right?
and I would agree with you. No, I will say you're right. I mean, I've made a commitment to you and to the commission that I don't like to go back on. We will certainly prepare ourselves and strive to complete whatever the tasks are in front of us. That said, if you as an audit committee feel as though the work plan should be adjusted, I'm happy to bring that forward to the commission. Because I do think it would take, a essential amendment to our work plan as approved by the commission.
Right.
I'm happy to do that if that's the desire of the board. And, we'll respect that. But in the absence of that, we will continue to push forward. So,
No, I completely agree, and we've actually talked about it in a previous meeting, because this is setting the template.
Mhm.
One form or another, that every other one of these is going to be done to some degree. This has got to be done correctly. So the quality far outweighs the need for quality far outweighs the need for quantity, in my opinion.
sure.
And since we may already be delaying this one, in order to be able to do a more appropriate audit based on changes that are happening in that part of in the department, it may be something to consider, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to go that route, what I would suggest, and we can certainly talk about it at the next meeting if you want to, is, the one that we essentially haven't started yet would be HCD would be the most appropriate, just because we haven't gotten off to that. And I would hate to delay some of the departments that have already made commitments and adjusted their schedules like
Yeah, that's
HR,
true.
to put even more burden on them. So I think, from economic development and HR, those we would certainly want to press forward with. It would be, if we were to consider a change to the work plan, it would be HCD at that point that I would
I
suggest.
mean, what is the timeline on our work plan, the work plan? I can't.
So the work plan was set up for the fiscal year.
For the
July
fiscal,
to
Yes.
June.
for the fiscal year that's ending in,
June 30th.
Yeah.
oh, well. Okay,
I'm
yeah,
hearing you say like one, and you're already dedicating, 2 days a week to?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Yes.
that's a lot on top of your other work.
And
Well,
we'll be working on the work plan for the
Yeah.
next fiscal year here very soon.
Mhm.
So,
yes,
And I think when this comes before the commission, that some of us, Dexter and I, might be able to bring that up, and then at that point, and there'll be questions about the workload and such.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think that would, yeah. Anyways, it's coming along pretty quickly.
well, and I appreciate y'all's, concern, and like I said, I will go with what the committee adds. I don't want to make it seem though like we didn't understand what we were up against. I mean, when we laid this out, I knew it was ambitious and it was gonna take a lot of time, so that blame can certainly fall on me for that, but we are committed, in the lack of any other change, to finishing this on time. And, hence the tax assessor report that you have in front of you, that has met the timeline. And we're committed as a staff to going forward. Now, I will not say that is without, its challenges. I mean, Katie, to her credit, was sending things in the early morning one night to me. So certainly that's not the routine that we want to make normal, but, both Judy and Katie understand the commitments that we've made, and they're dedicated to that regardless of, how challenging it may be. But I would also state, though, that we learned with this first audit, and I truly back the quality that's in it. But yeah, could we probably add another 2 to 3 weeks to each periodic audit to sort of double check things and maybe take a second glance in the field at things? And would that allow for it? Sure, it would. I think the quality could be enhanced. I'm not saying this is poor quality at all, but I think there's certainly room for improvement if we wanted to go that route.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any blame even for
Yeah.
anyone to take on. I think, one, we haven't done this before, so you don't know how long it's going to take. Two, with the public safety oversight, no one could predict,
Yeah.
you know, what that's going to be
Right.
like. You just don't know. And so you are kind of at the mercy of what shows up to you. So you never would know that it's going to double or quadruple
Yeah.
in time. So I think that it's just about being responsive to what the needs are. And again, I concur with everyone that it's about quality and setting those expectations for what it should look like moving forward. So for a modification, amendment, do we need to wait till next month? Is that something we can make a motion for? I mean, it seems like we're all in agreement. Or do we all want to wait until next month to see?
That is up to y'all.
And well, I don't know what we're meaning in terms of delaying that, you know, when we're, now that I'm thinking of like the finishing it, like I know that HCD, there's a lot of commissioners who have questions about it.
Mhm.
So, you know, whether or not it's, I mean, you know, in the best of all possible worlds, just for the, I'd like to see it initiate, you know, you have these three phases. Whether or not it's done, like, you know, having that the first, you're doing whatever steps you need to do to get that started, but then spending, you know, focusing more on it in the summer, towards the summer months and, you know, fall seems more realistic to me than trying to get them all done. But, you know, what do you all think?
Well, I think there's two scenarios you could go with right now. And to answer Dr. Thomas's question, you all don't have to wait till next month. You could certainly take action on it this month if you want to. And I'll write the agenda report whenever y'all decide, and we'll bring it up to the commission. But I think the two scenarios are, you know, we could essentially keep the same work plan for FY '24, but delay the timeline. I hesitate to do that because, again, I think the focus from our part is to try and maintain a fiscal year timeline. And so if we say that something's gonna be done in the fiscal year, it needs to follow that, give or take a few weeks. I think HR is an exception if we have to adjust 2 to 3 weeks for HR and that change. I built that already into our work plan and the commission approved agenda report to say that slight modifications to the timeline can be done administratively. So I think we're good with regard to HR on that side. To delay though, say HCD to the fall, you know, where we're not talking weeks anymore, we're talking months. I would feel more comfortable presenting that as an FY '25 work plan item for the commission. And we can even keep it on the forefront, like it will start July with the new fiscal year, and we'll make that the priority. But that way it's clean, and the expectation is it's not some lingering thing as part of FY '24. It's clean cut, it's the new thing as part of FY '25. And I think it helps keep us on task that way.
But aren't they, I mean, aren't these all kind of overlapping? And I mean, they're all overlapping in terms of the schedules, right? So, I mean,
They are.
I just don't understand how you, I mean, I'm not against
Sure.
being true to this, but I don't understand how you're always going to get everything wrapped up on June 30th and then start new. So it seems like that's just commonsensical that there's gonna be things that are overlap, where in this, especially because you have this part, like part 1, 2, 3, it
Mhm.
seems to like set itself up for that, you know, the initiation versus that over, because it, like, that would mean that I just, actually, I'm a little, isn't that over?
Yeah, I'll pass this down to you, Commissioner. I would agree that there are times where there may be a few weeks overlap, but when we build the fiscal, like when we built
Yeah.
this one, the overlap was to occur within the fiscal year to where, yes,
Yeah.
upon the end of the fiscal year, anything that was running would stop.
Yeah. I'm just saying is like like administratively myself and understanding it, that having, I don't think, I'm not talking about this year, but in general, having one that starts in one fiscal year and that overlap, I don't think that's a big issue.
Sure.
You know, but so, you know, that's just my 2 cents in there.
I think, you know, from the management perspective, sometimes when you're doing audits, you're looking at a lot of things that are contained in fiscal years too. So, you know, a lot of your documents, a lot of
Yeah.
your reports, a lot of your things are all measured by those points. And so sometimes if you do have that kind of crossover, I think it complicates the
Mhm.
analysis. If you're actually sattling 2 fiscal years in a,
But if you're doing the, like, if you were like collecting the data and then doing the writing and analysis in July rather than in June.
right,
But it's your work, so,
yeah.
I mean, I'm just here to
Yeah.
throw in my 2 cents.
I think what we can do, I think, easy fix, is if we carry over, I like Gavin's suggestion, if we carry over the next fiscal year, I think we still can achieve the same thing moving forward. 'Cause, again, 'cause they are overlapping, and if it carries over to 2025, I think we'll be okay. I think the commission, I hope our colleagues would agree with that, based on the work that's coming in that we're seeing
Mhm.
now. Because again, you know, we got that one who say we won't get 3 or 4 more
Right,
these
right.
things moving forward. Then so then we got all that going on. So yeah,
What I could offer too is if we decide to just keep it clean, push HCD into the FY 25 work plan along with any other ones that we feel are gonna fit within FY 25. We've already had preliminary conversations with the HCD department. They are aware of the fact that
Mhm.
their department is subject to an audit, whether it's an FY 24 or likely an FY 25. They're already anticipating, they've already been made aware of the materials that we're gonna be looking for. And so I think to your point, Commissioner, come June, even if we've amended the work plan to where it's now in FY 25, we can still be geared up come July 1st to start them off right away with the in-depth field work
Okay.
and still have conversations with them in June
Okay.
and let them know like, okay, this is coming.
Yeah.
Y'all need to just prepare
Right.
for it. So, I think that's one way to do it, but that is up to y'all. I would say if you're going to go that route to where we adjust or amend the FY 24 work plan to remove HCD, I can then bring that forward to the commission for a vote, but I would need some sort of formal recommendation from y'all, whether today or at the next meeting to do that. So,
I personally think it's not gonna make a difference whether it's this month or next month, and I would be interested to see, you know, I think also it would be give you an opportunity then to have more time with the police gov and the kind of time that's involved in the second month.
sure.
And that would just be helpful to communicate it. I don't think the extension is gonna be any problem at all.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah. And so yeah, so what I would recommend, and we can wait till our next meeting
Mhm.
to see if we get any more complaints coming from Peace Corps or any more documents. As you all know, I'm not sure it's on our website now, and you know people can go in and look at that. And so again, we may not get nothing, so we just don't know. But I think let's wait till the next meeting in March. Let's see to Carol's point.
Yeah, and we'll keep track of hours, we'll keep track of commitment over the next month, like we have been, and we can report that to you. What I will say is, what I've learned anyway is, regardless of whether there is a complaint formally filed or not, Peace Corps, to their credit, now that they've had a staff for this last 6 months, some of the things that were sort of waiting in the wind are now being taken on. And so they've recently done a annual work plan that's going to include outreach events, that's going to include educational events. They've also expressed a desire to start looking at policy. So regardless of whether a complaint comes in by ordinance, they can also start to preemptively look at policy in general for some of these public safety departments. And so I would even say that regardless of whether we get 1 or 10 complaints coming in next month, the numbers are gonna continue, I anticipate trending forward because they are already requesting information,
Yeah.
policy initiatives and things like that. So, but I will report back to y'all in March on that.
Well, and Auditor and I spoke about this briefly. So recommendations on they're an advisory body, and this, you don't typically have advisory bodies with non-public safety trained folks making changes that affect us operationally. So I think that's just an area of intersection that is, you can't script too tightly. You have to kind of let it evolve, but we're all watching it, and want to try and advance improvements for the community and department as much as we can.
Right. Any more updates?
No, I will come forward next month with an agenda though that includes, a potential amendment to the, work plan, if that's something you'll decide to go forward with on the next agenda, but we'll be prepared for that if need be. Other than that, staff is continuing their training. I've talked internally with Katie and Judy. They're, looking at other memberships, conferences, educational opportunities. We've been participating in webinars and things like that, and so that is still, a commitment that we're undergoing as well. And then from a budget standpoint, it's on the calendar for later this month, my budget meeting with the manager's office and staff. And so I'll let you know where that lies thereafter. But right now, it's still, it's essentially what we put forward to them last month. So that would be it.
Any comments? Pretty efficient.
Like to make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.